Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and if there are any more out in the lobby, we'll be happy to have your company as well. This is the first half of the Aerospace program, namely Aeronautics. As one who started out his professional career as an aeronautical engineer, I'm really happy to be shepherding this session. Unless my memory fails me, this is the first time in the history of TAMIST, 14 years, that we've had an actual session on aeronautics. And I think that's very important, and I think that it gives us a chance to talk about aeronautics in Texas, which we haven't really talked about before. For those of you who are unaware, in the 2 or 3 years right after the Wright brothers' flight, there were already Wright brothers type aircraft flying at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. In the ensuing 10 or 12 years, lots of airplanes were flying around Fort Sam Houston and later Kelly Air Force Base, which was established around World War I. Most of the U.S. pilots of World War I were trained at the field in San Antonio. In the World War I, most U.S. aviators were trained in San Antonio. And finally, in the mid-1930s, Randolph Air Force Base was established as the West Point of the air. And of course, in World War II, many pilots were trained around San Antonio. Now, why do I keep emphasizing San Antonio as a place for training pilots? Well, that's where the sun shines a lot. But of course, in World War II, we had great activity in the construction of military aircraft in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we have a great deal of aviation activities in Dallas-Fort Worth continuing to this day. Now, we thought we would do something a little different because of this first session in aeronautics, and that is, instead of just focusing on research, we would try to focus a little bit on the business of aviation in Texas, and then have something on the research activities, and maybe try to get some implications having to do with educational activities, since much of the research are produced in academic institutions which produce the students that commercial aviation firms employ. So I'm very happy to have the first half of this session conducted by people from industry, and I've asked them each to try to face to a few little challenges, like how do they view their business future in the state of Texas? Are there things that they could do that would be helpful, or things that the state could do that would be helpful? What challenges do they see in evolving technologies and how those technologies might affect their own company? And finally, we will see something about the research activities that come along. And what about their challenges in workforce, because they employ people not only from Texas universities, but all over the place. And hopefully many of those Texas graduates will come to work for these companies, and we hope that those graduates will turn out to be very productive people. Now, the state of Texas is a player in some aspects of commercial aviation, as is the federal government, with FAA and Federal Transportation Department. The federal government has a strong role, but the state also has one, particularly in facilities such as airports, et cetera. So we're going to take a little short look at something having to do with how the state is involved. And our first speaker, Ms. Janine Iannarelli, who is from the Avion Corporation, is also the chairperson of the Advisory Committee on Aerospace for the Office of Economic Opportunity of the Economic Development of the state, which reports to the governor. So I would call that the Governor's Advisory Committee. Ms. Iannarelli?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of the Academy, I'm delighted to be here and have the opportunity to participate in the 2018 Annual Conference on Aerospace. I'm as well delighted to be able to share with you some insight as to the activities of the Texas Aerospace and Aviation Advisory Committee and the role that we play in the future growth and development of both here in the state. Now I'm going to go to my glasses. The Texas Aerospace and Aviation Advisory Committee was established in 2003 by then Governor Perry. It was done at the urging of industry leaders and with the support of the 78th Texas Legislature. Governor Perry is an aviation enthusiast and one who recognized early on the importance of aerospace, aviation, and defense to the overall economy of Texas. The committee is the successor to the Texas Aerospace Commission, which was formed in 1987 with the objective of encouraging economic development in the commercialization of space. The committee's functions were transferred to the Texas Economic Development and Tourism Office in the Governor's Office, which brings us to where we are today. At present, the committee is comprised of 10 representatives from around the state who are actively engaged in aviation and aerospace enterprises and who serve on a voluntary basis. The appointments were made in early 2016 by Governor Abbott, at which time I was named the presiding chair. A key change to the composition of the committee was undertaken in 2015 by the 84th State Legislature, whereby it was required to have one member from each active spaceport development corporation. Representatives from the spaceport development corporations for Midland, Brownsville, Waco, and Ellington serve alongside other members who offer a diverse representation of our state's aerospace activities. This current slide will detail a bit of the responsibilities of the committee. The primary focus of the committee is to assist the state in its economic development efforts, which include identifying, recruiting, and helping to retain aerospace and aviation-related businesses, which subsequently will lead to job growth and creation. The committee advises and assists this office and the governor as to how to best meet these goals and objectives, as well as on the appropriate level of funding for the Spaceport Trust Fund. One of the primary tasks of the committee is to contribute to the creation of the strategic plan, which is updated each even-numbered year, and along with our recommendations is provided to the governor and the legislature by December 1st of that same year. Another initiative of the committee has been to collect data on organizations, be they state-funded educational programs or courses of study, clubs and informal groups throughout the state of Texas who support and encourage an interest in aerospace and aviation, in particular STEM activities. The committee, like many in this room I am sure, recognizes that the aerospace industry faces a critical shortage of pilots, mechanics, and engineers in the near term, and that we need to encourage pursuit of these careers among youth. It is incumbent upon those of us who are already in the industry to help foster interest and development in aerospace studies so as to help support continued growth. Texas boasts of one of the largest aerospace and aviation workforces in the country with over 135,000 workers employed. The state ranks #1 in the U.S. in air transportation employment alone, which is the largest subsector of this industry. General and business aviation, the latter of which is a sector that I belong to, contributes significantly to the local industry with jobs generated as a result of new and pre-owned aircraft sales, maintenance, parts, completion, and the refurbishment of aircraft of all sizes. 17 of the world's 20 largest aerospace corporations have major operations in the state. While Texas has long played a role in human spaceflight, with NASA's headquarters located in the Clear Lake area and locally boasting a large concentration of engineering talent, spacecraft development and testing is happening at several other test sites around the state. Private investment has led to significant competition in the further design, development, and launch of alternative space transport systems, and I am pleased to say that Texas has been one of the venues of choice for such companies as Blue Origin and SpaceX. Sadly, though, X-Corp has filed for bankruptcy. The state boasts 2 commercial spaceports, with one at Midland International and the other right here in Houston at Ellington. In addition, there is a launch site outside of Van Horn and one being developed near Brownsville, which I believe you heard earlier from SpaceX representative. I'm going to take you on a tour of some of those sites. Site preparation at the SpaceX Launch South Pad at Boca Chica Beach in Brownsville continues with soil still being dumped to stabilize the ground. SpaceX plans to pour concrete and start construction in 2018. At present, they have a few construction trailers, about a dozen employees, and earth-moving equipment at site. Over a 10-year period, there is an expectation that SpaceX will create 500 direct new jobs. In other developments, 2 S-band tracking station antennas that were originally manufactured in the 1960s here in Houston for NASA were purchased by SpaceX and brought down to the area and installed less than 1,000 feet from the surf. These dishes were originally utilized at the Kennedy Space Launch Site to track the Apollo missions, and they will now track the Dragon capsule along with other space vehicles. In the aviation sector, a new airport terminal at Brownsville SPI Airport is underway, and construction is expected to be completed by 2020. The Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation is working with the airport to develop 400-plus acres of light industrial and commercial real estate surrounding the new terminal, some of which will be designated for an aerospace aviation innovation corridor. Combined, the aforementioned projects are expected to create 1,500 indirect jobs in the Brownsville area. It should be noted that the Cameron County Spaceport Development Corporation was granted $13 million out of the Spaceport Trust Fund in 2014. Ellington Airport received FAA designation as a spaceport in 2015. As you probably already know, the spaceport will support reusable launch vehicles. While the loss of Blue Origin was a huge disappointment, other exciting news locally is being generated as Boeing, NASA, and others further their work on the Commercial Crew Program. The Space Launch System is being developed by part of a team here in Houston and in Huntsville. With call sign Starliner, with call sign Starliner, it is expected to fly unmanned later this year, with manned spaceflight a few short months thereafter. Meanwhile, general aviation investment continues at the airport as it offers a great reliever to Hobby Airport and easy access to downtown. With the acquisition of the fixed base operator Landmark by Signature Flight Support, they boost their presence in Houston to that of 3 FBOs and 14 statewide. Midland International Air and Spaceport is the only commercially operated spaceport in the world that offers both daily, regular, scheduled airline and charter flights and can support horizontal takeoff and landings for space vehicles. Most recently, the California-based company Leo Labs has completed the Midland Space Radar, which will track space trash in low Earth orbit. The Midland Spaceport Business Park, a 50-acre mixed-use development dedicated to support the space and flight aviation industry, is to be completed this month. It was funded by the Texas Spaceport Trust Fund and the Midland Development Corporation. Midland is also home to the Midland Altitude Chamber Complex, which consists of 3 rapid decompression chambers that will take you from 200,000 feet to ground level in a matter of seconds. The Midland Spaceport Development Corporation was granted $2 million in 2014. In general aviation activity, they saw a tremendous ramp up as a result of the renewed interest in exploration of the Midland Basin and beyond, and it is expected to continue well into the future. Waco is home to the Texas State Technical College Industrial Airport and the McLennan County Spaceport Development Corporation, both who are working in partnership to develop and grow commercial space-related business in the area. In 2015, McLennan County Commissioners voted to approve the incorporation of a Spaceport Development Corporation in an effort to help expand and attract aerospace activity to the area. TSTC has initiated feasibility studies for FAA spaceport designation, potentially allowing for horizontal launch and landing activities. SpaceX presently utilizes more than 4,000 acres where it is home to 7 rocket testing platforms. In 2016 through 17, they added considerably to their infrastructure and test facilities, along with bringing total employment up to around 500 full-time staffers in the area. While there's not enough empirical data to make the correlation, it is believed that growth in aerospace development has led to a growth in population and subsequent real estate boom. In particular, the city is seeing an influx of young people from 18 to 35 years of age. Collectively, aerospace contributes $3 billion to the local economy and employs more than 3,000 workers. Business development in the aerospace and aviation area continues in earnest and is aided in part by key state government initiatives. The aforementioned Spaceport Trust Fund, which was established in 2013, is a tool that may be used to assist in promoting growth of the aerospace industry in Texas. The fund was seeded with an additional $5 million in 2017, but it has yet to be determined as to how it will be allocated. The Texas Enterprise Fund is a deal-closing fund to attract new business and jobs to Texas, while the Texas Enterprise Closing Fund Zone Program, utilizes state sales and use tax refunds to help promote job creation and investment in an economically challenged areas of the state. Still, the future of business development and expansion in aerospace and the aviation industry here in Texas faces stiff competition from other states that are willing to sweeten the pot to an extent that is just not feasible for the long term. Niche markets are being carved out by Alabama, Louisiana, and Georgia to grow and support aerospace. We need to show the marketplace why Texas is a better investment. We need to look for ways to be more competitive and where it is not all about the money. That being said, the committee has made the recommendation for an abatement of certain taxes that directly impact the aerospace and aviation industry. Growth in general aviation and business aviation sector in particular has been hampered by the fact that a number of surrounding states, as well as those across the country, have moved to eliminate sales tax collection on goods and services in an effort to lure new business, and it is proving successful for them. Texas offers many of the other resources needed by these specialty companies, including infrastructure and the human resource capital, not to mention a low cost of living and a high quality of life. We also need to focus on education and workforce development, both of which are key components to the growth of aviation and aerospace here. If we instill in our youth at an early age an interest in aerospace and offer them the course of study and the opportunity to pursue it through the highest levels of education, we will retain them here as our future staff. Through such grassroots endeavors as Girls in Aviation Day and Girls Start, both of which I am active in, we encourage STEM education and empower these young girls to look at careers that they otherwise might not ever have thought possible. I believe there is no one person in this room who would question Texas leadership in the role and the history of human spaceflight and exploration. Illustrative of that, just across the lake is the Johnson Space Center, which has served as the primary flight control center for all U.S. manned space flights. The companies that supported these endeavors in the past are again today, along with the new entrants to the commercial space industry, leading the quest to explore the vast depth of space beyond the moon, starting with the mission to Mars. A significant acknowledgement of the importance of deep space exploration was recently exhibited by the President, who signed a declaration indicating the return of humans to the moon as a stepping stone to Mars. Clearly, there is a continued desire to slip the surly bonds of Earth. Thank you.